The camera pans over the bustling set of The View, with the audience clapping enthusiastically as the hosts take their seats at the iconic crown table. Whoopi Goldberg introduces the guest with her signature warmth, announcing Richard Gere, the Hollywood icon, here to promote his latest documentary on happiness and wisdom inspired by the Dalai Lama. Gere walks out looking dapper in a tailored suit, smiling broadly and waving to the crowd, who cheer loudly. He shakes hands with each host, saving a polite nod for Joy Behar, who sits with her notes in hand, her expression already hinting at skepticism. The conversation starts lightly, with Sarah Haynes asking about his experiences working with the Dalai Lama, and Gere responds eloquently about inner peace and global compassion. Alyssa Farah Griffin chimes in with a question on how these teachings apply to modern life, and Gere dives into stories from his travels in India, emphasizing mindfulness in a chaotic world. But then Joy Behar leans forward, her voice cutting through the pleasantries like a knife. She questions the practicality of such philosophies in the face of real-world politics, specifically calling out Gere's past activism against certain governments. Gere maintains his composure at first, explaining that true change comes from within, but Behar presses on, accusing him of being out of touch with everyday struggles in America. The tension builds subtly as Gere counters with examples from his humanitarian work, but Behar interrupts, her tone sharpening, suggesting that celebrities like him use their platforms for virtue signaling rather than actionable change. The audience murmurs, sensing the shift, and Whoopi tries to steer back, but Behar doubles down, bringing up an old interview where Gere criticized U.S. foreign policy, implying hypocrisy in his current serene demeanor. Gere's smile fades slightly, his eyes narrowing as he responds more firmly, defending his lifelong commitment to human rights. Behar retorts with a quip about Hollywood elites lecturing from ivory towers, and the exchange heats up. Gere leans back, crossing his arms, his voice rising just a notch as he challenges her to consider her own biases in media. The other hosts exchange glances, and Ana Navarro jumps in with a light-hearted comment to diffuse, but the damage is done. The air is thick with unspoken friction. Gere takes a deep breath, regaining his poise, but the segment feels charged, the audience hanging on every word. As commercials approach, Whoopi wraps up politely, thanking Gere, but viewers at home can feel the underlying storm brewing from that brutal back and forth. Back from commercial, the show resumes with the hosts diving deeper into Gere's documentary, but the earlier tension lingers like a shadow over the table. Sunny Hostin asks about the film's message on forgiveness, and Gere speaks passionately about letting go of anger for personal growth. He shares anecdotes from interviews with spiritual leaders, painting vivid pictures of transformation through compassion. The audience nods along, some even applauding mid-sentence. But Joy Behar isn't done. She circles back, questioning whether such ideals are feasible in a divided America. Referencing recent political turmoil, Gere responds thoughtfully at first, advocating for dialogue over division, but Behar pushes harder, citing specific policies Gere has opposed in the past, like those on Tibet or environmental issues. She accuses him of romanticizing Eastern philosophies while ignoring Western realities, her words laced with sarcasm. Gere's face tightens, and he retorts that dismissing these teachings is short-sighted, emphasizing how they've helped millions find peace amid chaos. The exchange escalates as Behar interrupts again, her voice booming, challenging him on his celebrity status affording him luxuries others don't have. Gere fires back, his tone sharpening, pointing out that her platform on The View allows her to influence opinions daily, questioning if she's using it wisely. The audience gasps audibly now, and Whoopi interjects with a joke to lighten the mood. But it's clear Gere is getting frustrated. He shifts in his seat, his hands gesturing more emphatically as he defends his work with refugees and human rights organizations. Behar counters with a pointed remark about actors playing heroes on screen but not in real life, and that's when Gere's patience snaps a beat. He raises his voice, saying she's twisting his words for sensationalism. The other hosts try to mediate. Sarah suggests moving to audience questions, but the verbal sparring continues briefly. Gere takes a sip of water, composing himself, but his eyes flash with irritation. Behar smirks slightly, as if enjoying the debate, but the segment feels like a powder keg. As they cut to another break, The camera catches Gere exhaling deeply, the brutal exchange leaving an indelible mark on the show's energy. The third segment opens with audience questions, a chance to pivot from the intensity, but the undercurrent remains. A fan asks Gere about his iconic roles, like in Pretty Woman, and he lightens up, reminiscing with charm about filming those scenes decades ago. Laughter fills the studio as he shares behind-the-scenes stories, endearing himself further to the crowd. Alyssa follows up on his family life, and Gere speaks warmly about fatherhood and balance. However, Joy Behar seizes the moment to redirect, probing into how his Buddhist influences affect his views on current events, like ongoing global conflicts. Gere answers diplomatically, stressing nonviolence, but Behar challenges him aggressively, suggesting his stance is naive in the face of aggression from certain regimes. The back and forth intensifies. Gere counters with historical examples of peaceful resistance succeeding, his voice steady but edged. Behar scoffs, bringing up celebrity activism failures, and accuses him of selective outrage. At this point, Gere loses his cool a fraction more. He stands up slightly, then sits back, his face reddening as he passionately declares that cynicism like hers perpetuates division. The audience is split, some clap for Gere, others murmur in support of Behar. Whoopi calls for calm, reminding everyone it's a discussion, but the exchange has turned brutal. Sunny tries to bridge with legal perspectives on human rights, but Behar interrupts Gere again, her persistence wearing him down. Gere's responses grow shorter, more pointed, as he accuses the show of ambushing guests with loaded questions. The tension peaks when Behar makes a personal jab about his age and relevance, and Gere snaps back, saying experience trumps sensationalism any day. The hosts laugh nervously, but the air is electric. Ana Navarro defends Gere lightly, sharing her own activism stories, which eases things momentarily. As the segment winds down, Gere composes himself, but the damage from the repeated clashes is evident. He's visibly agitated, his serene facade cracked by Behar's relentless probing. Returning from break, the focus shifts to lighter topics, but the earlier confrontations cast a long shadow. Penn Badgley joins via video for a quick promo, providing a brief respite, but soon it's back to Gere. Sarah Haynes asks about his future projects, and he discusses upcoming films with enthusiasm, trying to steer positive. Yet Joy Behar interjects once more, questioning the ethics of Hollywood's portrayal of spirituality versus reality. Gere sighs audibly, responding with measured words about artistic integrity, but Behar presses on, citing controversies from his past films. The argument reignites. Gere defends his choices vehemently, his volume rising as he calls out media hypocrisy. Behar retorts sharply, her gestures animated, accusing him of dodging tough questions. The audience watches in stunned silence as Gere finally loses it. He slams his hand on the table lightly, exclaiming that he's tired of being painted as the villain for caring about the world. Whoopi jumps in, mediating firmly, while the other hosts express surprise. Gere apologizes immediately for the outburst, but the moment is raw, authentic frustration spilling over. Behar seems unfazed, continuing her points, but Gere cuts her off, passionately outlining his decades of advocacy. The exchange becomes a full-blown debate, with crosstalk and heightened emotions. Sunny Hosting tries to fact-check, but it's chaotic. Ana Navarro supports Gere, sharing similar experiences, which calms him slightly. As commercials loom, Whoopi raps hastily, thanking everyone, but the studio buzzes with the aftermath of Gere's loss of composure amid Behar's brutal persistence. The penultimate segment attempts normalcy with a hot topics discussion, but Gere's presence keeps the edge alive. They touch on current news, and Gere offers insightful comments on unity. However, Joy Behar challenges him on political endorsements, sparking another round. Gere holds firm, but his irritation shows in clipped responses. Behar's barbs fly, questioning his influence, and Gere counters with facts from his foundation's work. The brutality peaks when Behar mocks his optimism, and Gere explodes verbally, standing up and pacing briefly before sitting, ranting about media divisiveness. The audience erupts in mixed reactions to applause and gasps. Whoopi calls a timeout, and the hosts confer off mic. Gere breathes heavily, regretting the escalation but standing by his words. Behar defends her role as provocateur, but the exchange has crossed into personal territory. Sarah and Alyssa try to redirect to positive notes, sharing admiration for Gere's career. He softens, discussing happiness again, but the scar from the confrontation remains. As the show nears end, reflections on the discussion highlight the passion, with Gere admitting the heat got to him. In the final wrap-up, the hosts bid farewell, with Gere receiving a standing ovation despite the drama. He shakes hands, even with Behar, though tension lingers. Post-show chatter and the audience buzzes about the brutal exchange and Gere's loss of it. The credits roll over highlights, capturing the intense moments. Viewers at home debate online, some siding with Gere's authenticity, others with Behar's tough questioning. The episode becomes instant talk, symbolizing raw celebrity interviews. Gere later reflects in interviews on the value of spirited debates, turning the incident into a teachable moment on composure under fire. The View's ratings spike, proving controversy sells, but at what cost to guests' poise?